morning to everyone who has joined today. From ManageEngine family, we would like to extend a warm welcome and sincere thanks to all our customers. Endpoint management and security is one of the main focus areas of ManageEngine. Right, thank you all for the confirmation. Let me introduce myself. My name is Abraham Zebaraj. I am a product specialist with ManageEngine. I take care of endpoint management products, including Desktop Central. I'm also a seasoned technical support engineer assisting customers in their implementation, consultation queries, and also in troubleshooting. In today's webinar, we'll be focusing on endpoint management solutions, which has different product portfolios under management and security. So during today's training session, we'll be discussing on Desktop Central Suite and its features, which has management as well as security capabilities. Once again, welcome to Desktop Central training. Let's look at the training schedule. We are in week 4, which is for asset management. We already have completed patch management, endpoint security features, software deployment. In case if you have missed the previous training schedules, you can use the below shown URL and access the recorded videos. And you can use the same link to register for the upcoming trainings as well. And we're also offering a certificate of participation for our attendees, and it includes series 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is going to be conducted over the period June 16th to July 21st. So for more details, you can refer this link shown on the screen. All right. So today's topic is asset management. So we will focus on asset management features on Desktop Central. Right, let me quickly talk about agenda for today. So we'll be starting with the overview of Desktop Central, and we'll see how it helps in managing distributed workflows. Followed by that, we will discuss on architecture and options in asset management in detail with few real-time examples like identifying unauthorized applications, managing software licenses, options to proactively revoke hard disk space, all that. And later, we'll wind up the session with few common scenarios and frequently asked questions with respect to asset management. So during this training, anytime if you have any questions, feel free to use the chat option, chat window here. So we have an expert panel available to answer your questions. All right. First, what is Desktop Central? Desktop Central is a unified endpoint management solution that ensures all your endpoints are secure and enables the user to use them effectively for business. A popular research analyst called Forrester defines UEM as follows. UEM is the product that provides a centralized policy engine for managing and securing employees' laptop and mobile devices from a single console. In unified endpoint management, you can manage endpoints in a traditional IT management fashion, which includes patch management, application management, configuration deployment, OS deployment, tools for troubleshooting and management activities. Similarly, endpoints can also be managed with modern management. All modern operating systems like Windows 10 and latest Mac operating systems support modern management. It supports features like geo-tracking, geo-fencing, managing store applications, profile distribution to enforce restrictions, and operating system reset, recovery, and all that. Right, so Desktop Central can manage both the worlds, traditional and modern, from a single console. So these are the features that you can leverage when you use Desktop Central as a unified endpoint management solution. For example, we have patch management, which takes care of operating system and third-party patching. We have software distribution, asset management configurations. we can manage other functionalities, including mobile device management for iOS, Androids, Windows, and even Chromebooks. So then we have modern management, which is for Windows and Mac machines, where you can perform geo-tracking, complete wipe, you can enforce devices into kiosk mode and distribute store apps, profiles, and all that. So we also have operating system deployment solution inbuilt, which is an hardware independent deployment solution where you can create a single master image and deploy it to multiple machines easily. In addition to that, we also have introduced security add-on features, which includes browser management, application control management, BitLocker management, vulnerability management, and all that. If you have more questions, feel free to use the chat. We'll help you more on that. Right. Hence, with Desktop Central as a unified endpoint management, you will be able to manage desktops, laptops, mobile phones, tablets, servers, point of sale devices, and even browsers from a single console. So Desktop Central is recognized in 4 top IDC MarketScape reports for UEM this year, and here are the categories of recognition. All right, so these are the essential as well as optional components with Desktop Central. So the Desktop Central server itself is an essential component which provides GUI, the interface to manage. And the agent is also an essential component which you need to install on all the endpoints that you need to manage. And there's also another essential component called notification server, which is used in any on-demand actions like scanning, remote control, chat, right, and all that. So when we look at about optional components, we have distribution server, which serves as a repository for patches, software, scripts that you can deploy to the machines in remote offices. And you can also create unique replication policies for each locations. So then we have secure gateway server, which is useful to manage the machines that are not part of your LAN or VPN and are connecting over internet directly. So we also have failover server, which you can use if you wanted to maintain high availability for your Desktop Central server, and this is separately licensed as well. And last, you can also use language packs to view web console in your preferred languages. All right, so here are the supported operating systems. So we do support all 3 major operating systems, Windows, Mac, and Linux categories. And here are the versions and flavors of each. Primarily, the Desktop Central server application will run on any Windows platform, as you see, but the agent can be installed on any supported operating systems listed. The functionalities might vary among different operating systems. You can always reach out to support for any additional details on this. Desktop Central works in client-server application model. As I mentioned, agent is mandatory, an essential component. So to facilitate the agent installation, we have 3 methods. First, you can deploy agents through group policy startup scripts, where you can customize and create a script in group policy and execute that on system startup. Or you can also use Desktop Central Console, and in Desktop Central Console, you can integrate your Active Directory and sync and import the computer details from Active Directory and push install the agent. We also have additional options like you can manually download the agent and install it, or you have an option to run a scripts to remotely deploy the agents to the computers. All right. Okay, so now we have come to asset management. So first, why do we need asset management in an enterprise environment? So generally, asset management is required to manage and track all IT assets. For example, to find the number of hardware, softwares installed on my network and its types, and even to manage software licenses and warranty details, and to ensure the devices are compliant and audit ready, and to get comprehensive reports for my various needs. So now we'll discuss on what are the options that Desktop Central provides in asset management. Right. So Desktop Central's asset management scans all the asset data from the computer. So with the help of the agent that you install, we will scan all the data, hardware details, software details, driver details, certificate details, security details, USB details, and everything that you see here. Even if you could enroll this device, Windows 10 or Mac device, into a mobile device management for modern management, we can even track the location of the device. So let me show you how we collect this data. Right, so here's the architecture, how we collect the data. So we use an option called inventory scan to collect the data. So first, Desktop Central agent is required to be installed on all the computers. So as you might already know, you have already installed Desktop Central. So Desktop Central agent, when you install it for the first time, it will run a complete scan, and it's called full scan, and it will post the data to the Desktop Central server. So the subsequent scans, which you can schedule to run automatically daily or weekly or monthly, or you can even initiate a scan from an agent machine or from the console on demand. So this subsequent scans will collect the data and compare the previous data, and will only post the differential data to the Desktop Central server console. Right. So this is how the scanning works in the backend. Right. Let me log into the console to show you how inventory scan works. Right. So first, you need to install agents. So you can follow the best option. You can push through GPO, or you can install it manually. So once you install agents, all your agents will start communicating to your Desktop Central server. And in the agent settings here, you have an option to scan the computers when you install the agents automatically. So go to the click on the agent settings here. So here you have an option here. So by default, this will be enabled, so you can ensure that. So once you install agents, the first time scan, it's called full scan, will be done, and the data will be posted to the Desktop Central server automatically. So you can go to the computers view here, and you can see the scan computers view or all computers view, and you can click on the computer name to view the details of all the asset. So for example, let me click on this computer. Yeah, let me, right. So let me click on this particular computer to show you what are all the details we collect. Oh, sorry. All right. So this is a Windows 10 computer. As you see here, it will tell you when the last scan has happened, currently logged in user, the last logged in user, the last boot time, and everything. And in the summary view, you can see the other details, whether the OS license is licensed, activated, primary owner of this device, how many hardware, software is detected, critical software is detected, and everything. You can see the disk usage summary. You can see the OS summary here, details, product key, OS CD key, and everything. And even here, we can get the warranty details with the help of this. So with the help of agent, we collect the serial number, service tag, and Desktop Central server capable of collecting this warranty details for Dell and Lenovo machines using the serial number that we collect, and we will help you in getting the shipping date and expiry date for that as well. Even if you want to manually update that for a different vendors like HP or any other vendors, you can manually even update that. Right, and we also have options to add custom fields, and you can manually add your data for your convenience. So you can very well make use of that. So this is the summary view. And here in the systems view, we will tell you what are the services detected, what are the users identified, groups identified on the computers, drivers identified. So everything will be visible here. So as you see here, drivers by default will not be enabled. Driver scan will not be enabled by default. So you need to click on change settings here, or you can go to change setting option here, the scan setting option here, and you can enable the driver scan. So not only driver scan, we also have other optional scans which you can enable or disable. For example, so we also have certificate scans which you can enable or disable, or the share details of the services details. So based on this, the data will be collected. So I have just disabled this driver details scan alone. So hardware details, software details are all like the regular scan. So those are all the regular data that we will collect. And now in the hardware, we do collect the serial number of every hardwares, and you can see the details of each. As you see, the classifications are available. Software details will tell you that, will easily tell you the desktop apps, and, even it will tell you about the Microsoft Store apps, that you can detect on the computers. And certificate details. So since I have enabled certificate scan, it will detect the certificates details, and it will tell you the expiry date and everything. And even file details, which you can enable. So this is mainly to capture the data of what types of files that I have in my computer, and the total number of files, and the memory occupied by that file. So for the file scan, you need to enable a file scan over here under the schedule scan. Yeah, so you need to go to the file scan under the schedule scan and schedule a time like, daily or weekly or monthly. So you can customize the time over here. And not only that, so you can also customize what types of files that I wanted to scan. So here you can go to file scan rules and enable what files that I wanted to capture. So by default, we have provided certain file scan rules. If you want, you can enable or disable, and you can even customize and create a new rule on your own to only scan on the recommended file types. So that is file scan. And next important thing here is the security details. So here by default, Desktop Central Agent will collect the BitLocker status, the encryption status, and the recovery key, and even the antivirus details, Defender, and whether it is enabled or not, whether it's up to date or not. So everything will be captured. Firewall details will also be captured. So disable, enable, so you can see all those details here, and even patch details that we will capture. Apart from that, we have USB audit. So you can enable the USB audit functionality by using USB audit settings here. So once you enable that, Desktop Central Agent will start monitoring the USB usage on that computer, or in fact on any computers, and report the summary by tomorrow. So here in the USB audit summary, you can see how often the report for this USB has to be generated as well. Right, so let me, right. So here when you enable it, it'll tell you report has to be maintained. Report should be generated for every 1 day or 2 day. You can customize that based on your need. Okay, and next is the history. So here we maintain the audit history that captures any changes that happens on the computer. So hardware level changes or software level changes, additional or removal, everything will be captured with the timestamp in it. So that can be used. And user logon history can also be captured. So whenever multiple users log into that computer, you can see the last logged in user, and with the timestamp and everything, you can export these details as a report, right? So that is all about how Desktop Central collects the inventory data from the computer and what data that we collect, right? So if you have any questions, feel free to type your questions on chat, right? And one more thing here, I told you about the subsequent scan. So first time the scan is automatic once you install the agent and the data will be collected. The subsequent scans can be done through an on-demand scan, which you go to scan systems, select the computers and do it on, click on this. But you don't have to do that all the time. So again, you can go to a scan option here. So schedule scan option. So in the schedule scan option, we already have inventory scan. You can enable that and say, I wanted to run a scan on daily or a weekly or monthly. So you can customize that so that the scan results will be posted automatically to the server, right? Okay, so that's it about the inventory scan, right? So now to discuss on the other features of asset management, I have taken few use cases here. So first use case here is, now let's assume John, an IT administrator, and his IT team is responsible for managing digital workspaces distributed across the globe, across various regions. So here's his setup, and in fact, he's managing around 10,000 plus computers across the globe. So in this case, there'll be three types of users mainly. So one, the regular VPN users who will be usually connected to the corporate network via VPN, or they usually work from office. And we also have other users who just now started working from home due to this pandemic situation. So they are new to VPN and they are provided with the VPN access and they are using VPN to connect to the network and work. And the third type of users will be the internet users who will not use VPN. So they will be always using the cloud-based application from a browser. So they directly connect through internet and access the resources from your network. So that's how, these are the three types of users. So that being said, so since we have these different types of users, we also have different types of challenges in managing and maintaining the compliance and everything for these type of users. So these are the general challenges that I just classified. So for example, for work from office users, it's, the risks and complexity is very less. So that's not going to be a problem. So you can do everything on a planned activity and all that. So you have a better control over that. For work from home users or the users who connect, so who come back to office after working from home, taking their BYOD devices or their devices not being managed for a while. So you have a lot of risk associated with that. So you should be ensuring that the machines are not using any unauthorized applications, and you should maintain the machines are getting properly patched and all that. So a lot of difficulties are there. So that being said, so what features that Desktop Central offers to handle the situation. So of course, yes, Desktop Central has a very good number of features to handle the situation in an effective way. So let me talk about that, right? So first thing here is, as long as you have the Desktop Central agent installed on the computers, the Desktop Central agent is going to communicate to the server one way or other. And as you know, we can manage the machines and work from in VPN network and LAN network, and also directly from internet if you have a secure gateway configured. So as long as the agents are communicating, so you can easily manage them and enforce security policies and apply patches and all this kind of thing. Right. To explain this better, so we have three steps here. So first, we need to identify the work from home endpoints. Okay. So to explain this, I will go into this console, right? So let's take a look at this architecture here. So this is the Desktop Central architecture, your Desktop Central hosted in your secure network. And so here you have two scenarios. So one, you might have already configured a secure gateway, and your agents or some of your agents are in LAN, they talk to the central server, and some of the agents are configured in a remote office with distribution server, and they talk to the central server through VPN network or through LAN. And we also have roaming users who do not have a distribution server and directly communicate through secure gateway and reach central server. So these are the three types of users that we have already seen. So now we need to identify whether all users can, all the agents can communicate to the server without any issues. So talking about the first scenario, so I already have configured secure gateway server. So what I should check here is whether the agents that all the agents will already know how to talk to the secure gateway server, because you already have updated the public facing IP address at FKDN under your NAT settings. If you go to admin and if you go to NAT settings, you might have already configured a NAT settings here with this public, facing IP address at FKDN. So all your agents is going to communicate, and all your agents will know how to talk to the secure gateway server and communicate to the server. So that's not going to be a problem. Right. So again, if secure gateway is already configured, so for the LAN agents, there won't be no issues here. So they already will know how to communicate to the server. So everything is there. And for the remote office agents, so in this case, let's take, this is a remote office agents, and this remote office has a distribution server. So since I have secure gateway, agents will talk to the secure gateway and they will reach the desktop central server. But when the agents are in the home network, they cannot talk to the distribution server unless you expose that. And exposing distribution server to internet is not a recommended option here. So what do we do here? So we need to find out how many remote offices that you have as the roaming users or the work from home users under. So for example, if you go to remote office page, so you'll be seeing all the remote offices that you have configured. So in this case, I have this office that I've test remote office that I created. I have a distribution server assigned for this. Let's assume I have like 50 computers of that. So out of this 50, so maybe 10 or 20 computers are working from home without VPN connection. So in such case, they can communicate to the server, but they cannot talk to distribution server. So if they cannot talk to distribution server, you cannot send out any jobs like patch deployments or configurations to them. So what you should do, so you should modify the remote office here. So you can click on this actions and click modify. And in this option, so you will be allowed to change the communication type where you can eliminate the distribution servers usage here. So let me show you how. So here, for example, if this remote office has a distribution server, you should change this option to be a direct communication office so that the agents under this remote office will automatically talk to the server, read the job instead of depending on the distribution server. All right, so that's about this remote users. And if the agents are already roaming, and since you already have secure gateway configured, you won't be having any issues in that agents as well. Right. So next scenario here is that assume that you already manage computers in desktop central, but you didn't expose your desktop central server with the secure gateway or with the NAT IP or FKDN. So you're configuring the secure gateway just recently or today. So you're adding the FKDN details on the NAT settings just now. So what happens now? The existing agents will only know how to talk to server when they are in the LAN or in VPN network. So when they are, when the users take their laptops home and if the agents doesn't know talk to the server, so doesn't know how to talk to the server with the public FKDN and all that because they don't know how to do that. So in order to update the public FQDN on the agent machines, right? So you can use the scripts available here for the LAN agents and remote office agents and all that. So basically, it'll be a batch file or a SSH file, or for a Mac and for Windows. So you will have to download this batch file, and in this batch file, you can easily edit the public IP address or FQDN here. So let me show you how to do that. So let's assume that I have downloaded the batch file here. So I need to modify this, and in this here, I need to enter the public FQDN or IP address. So once the script file is ready with the public facing IP address, I can deploy this to the agent machines. So now the agent machines will know how to talk to the server when they are outside in internet, and they will automatically talk to the server through secure gateway. All right. So that's exactly how you can easily manage your endpoints which are already roaming with or without distribution service. Hope this is clear. So if you have any questions on this section, feel free to type your questions on chat. We'll be happy to assist. Okay, so now let's move on to the next use case here. So identifying unauthorized applications. So this is one of the biggest challenge nowadays. So as I explained before, so since people are working from home, so if they are administrators, or they might be using their BOOD devices as well, so own devices as well. So you need to ensure that when they connect to your network, they are not using any unauthorized applications which might be a potential threat for your network. So how do we use Desktop Central to identify and uninstall the unauthorized applications? So let me show you the options available under Desktop Central. So first option that we're going to look at is a prohibited software option. Okay, so the workflow for the prohibited software is very simple. So first thing, you have to go to Desktop Central here and click on Inventory and click Software Details. And in this software view, you can see all the softwares detected from my managed computers. So here I can see each and every software is detected. So in case if this application, AnyDesk, is not an authorized software, I can select this application and check this option as prohibited software. So as soon as I mark this application as a prohibited software, the application will list under the prohibited software view. So that's exactly the first option here. So configure the prohibited software rules, right? So now it will tell you how many users are using AnyDesk softwares, or in fact, it will also tell you how many users are using any prohibited softwares that you added on the list. So you can add many prohibited softwares as well. Right, so here is the list. Now, so what are the next actions that I can do? So this prohibited softwares can be used in two ways. One, you can configure auto uninstall option to uninstall the prohibited softwares detected on any computers. So I go to auto uninstall policy here and enable the automatic uninstallation and set the number of applications that you can uninstall during this startup, because this auto uninstallation will happen on the next reboot, right, in the booting process. So you can limit the numbers based on your requirement. And you can also give them like a grace period for 3 days or 5 days. And for this 5 days or 3 days, you can show this kind of notification to the end users. So whenever a prohibited software is detected on a computer, on an end user computer, end users will be able to see that these are all the prohibited softwares detected on your computer. Contact your administrator. So in the bottom of the page, the end user himself can type the message and communicate to the user and click send request. So this request will be here under user request. So as an administrator, I can review this and I can approve or decline the request. And I can see the audit history, and I can see the auto uninstall status, right? So what happens after uninstallation, right? And once the application is uninstalled successfully, silently, and we won't block the installation of that application. So if user tries to install the same version of application once again, we won't block the installation of an application. However, we have an option here called alerts. So this alerts can be configured to send a notification whenever a prohibited software is installed on any computer. So again, it could be for any prohibited software is listed over here. Okay, right. And one other important requirement for automatically uninstalling an application. So Desktop Central Agent is going to uninstall the application, prohibited softwares, silently with the help of its agent and all that. So if it is an exe based application, the installer type is exe, you will have to define the uninstallation switches and commands so that Desktop Central Agent can use this and uninstall it. So this switches will vary for every application. You need to get it from the application vendor, from the websites, or even you can check with the admin guides of this respective application and configure it here. So Desktop Central Agent is going to use that and help you uninstall it silently. And we also have an option called exclusion here. So for example, if I wanted this application to be excluded for specific group of people, probably an IT administrators who I want to allow them to use this application. So I can add them to this list and I can add them to the exclusion list for this specific software. In case if I want to create a global exclusion list for any prohibited softwares, I can create a global exclusion list. So global exclusion meaning when you add a group of users or group of computers or computers under this list, this computers can use any prohibited softwares that you classify here, right? But that way, you can easily identify the unauthorized applications and automatically uninstall the application, right? So hope this is clear, right? So, but this is not a very effective solution, isn't it? Right. So, for example, again, this is also version based. So, this is not even blocking the installation of an application. So, what if I wanted to block the installation of the application? I wanted to let the users to use only the authorized applications which I distribute through Desktop Central, right? So, in that case, we have a feature called application control, which comes as part of the security add-on, endpoint security add-on, which is a brand new add-on feature that is available for Desktop Central. So you can enable this if you have a valid license for that. So once you have this enabled, you will see all the security add-on features. So I go to application control. So first here, I need to create application groups to whitelist and blacklist the applications. So I click on whitelist. So here I will be creating the name for my identification, application group name. So let's assume that official softwares. So I can define what are all the applications that can be allowed. So this application list that you see here will be automatically updated based on the inventory scan that we already have seen. So let's assume that these are all the applications that I wanted to allow in the whitelist. So I can add all of that and click create here. So now I have created a whitelist group and I have a blacklist group. So how do I deploy this policy to the computers? So now I go to policy deployment section. I click on associate policy. So click here and select the targets. So as you might know, Desktop Central has its own method of grouping the computers. So similar to AD grouping. So here in Desktop Central, based on Desktop Central agent install missions, we will be grouping the computer. So we call it as custom groups. So we have different types of custom groups that you can create, like static group, static unique, or dynamic group. So I can give the name for the custom group. Either I can add a filter and filter it, or I can use the static option here and pick the computers from the list or directly from the OU, or I can import through CSV and add them to the list. So once a static custom group is created, I will be allowed to select the custom group where I want to target these policies. I can select them in this. And next, I will be selecting the whitelisting and blacklisting application. So based on this selected application group, the applications will be blacklisted and whitelisted. Not only that, you also have an option called Associate Privileged Application List. For example, I'm distributing this policy to all my computers. In this case, for example, all my finance department or all my computers or IT department. Maybe as a help desk technician or an IT manager, for any troubleshootings, I might log into the machine and I might need to log in or access some of the applications, which is not actually allowed for that unauthorized users. Like for example, for the regular standard users, the application is not allowed. But if I log in as an administrator, I should be able to access that application. So that is the feature called associate privileged list here. So what I should do here, I should enable this condition yes, and I can click on privilege management. I can open that in a new tab, and I have to define the list of application which can be used when you launch or when you log in with an or when you access with an admin privileges here. So you can add your own list of applications which you want to authorize to be run as an administrator. So when user login as an administrator, automatically the application will be allowed to be used. So that's privilege management, right? So next is the block mode, and so we have audit mode and we also have strict mode. Audit mode is that, except blacklisted applications, all the applications will be allowed to run. In whitelisted applications, even other applications will be allowed to run. But if you go for a strict mode, only the whitelisted applications will be allowed. So with or without the blacklisted list, all other applications will be automatically blocked. So that is strict mode. So you can deploy this policy, and that will prevent the end users from installing or accessing any install applications even. So that way you can have a better control over the application installation. Right. Trust that was useful. Right. So now let's move on to the next scenario. Managing software licenses. So this is also another important scenario when it comes to inventory management. So what I should do here is whenever I detect an application with desktop central inventory, I can see whatever applications are detected and all that. If I want to manage the license usage for these applications, I can go to manage licenses here. Yeah. So you can click on manage licenses, and in this manage license option, you can easily add the license details of the applications that you purchase. For example, let me take an application like this. Okay, so I pick that application. So this is a licensed application. I choose the license edition, which I can even customize and add new. So I can add cost and all that. And I can add the numbers like that. For example, let's assume that I purchased 10 licenses here for this application. I can add license key. I can add the license file, invoice details, purchase orders and everything. And even you can associate that license if you know to which computer you want to associate. If not, you can just click on add. So once you add the license details here, we will compare the number of installations and the number of licenses purchased that you define here. So here for the CyberLink media, so you have purchased like 10 licenses, and if no users are using that application, it will tell you the remaining license is 10, right? So similarly, for example, if you take the 7-zip, for example, so I have purchased 5 licenses, and out of which 2 is utilized and 3 is remaining. Okay. So based on this, you can see the compliance status over licensed, or even when the number is in negative values. So when you're utilizing, when the managed installation is more than the number of total license purchased, it'll tell you it is under licensed. So that's exactly is explained here. So when the number of license purchased equals to number of installations, it will be in compliance. If it is greater or lesser, it will be under licensed or over licensed. Okay, right. So you don't have to manually add this license details for every single applications. You have an option to import it through CSV as well. So you can use the sample CSV guidelines shown here, and you can even directly import the details through CSV import. Right. So that's about license management. And this license details can be exported easily as a report for an audit purpose and all that. And we also have an option called alerts here. So in configure alerts. So based on this license expiry date and all that you specified, it'll automatically give you an alert when you're using, any applications under licensed, or when a license usage is less than 10%, or when you're using a software where the license expires. So this can easily give you an alert through the email address that you configure. All right, so now let's move on to the next scenario. So proactively resolving hard disk space issues. So this is one of the common scenario that you might have faced. So what are the options available in Desktop Central? Okay, so normally in this case, you should have a better option to identify what is the usage, the disk usage, and you should have a better option to monitor that. And you should have a better alert mechanism to alert the end user and also an administrator. And you should be able to get a report whenever it is needed. And you should have a better option to remove the unwanted files, like a cleanup actions as well. So all these options are supported in Desktop Central. Let me show you how. So first thing, when I show you the inventory details, I already showed you that we already detect the details of the disks usage and everything. So let me show you that one more time just to refresh. So I click on the name of the computer. Oh, sorry, I clicked on the wrong name. So here. So I click on the name of the computer. So here in the summary view, you can see the details of the disk usage. So what is the total space? What is the size occupied? What is the remaining space and all that? Okay, let me refresh the screen. Okay, so let me refresh the screen for that. But meanwhile, you don't have to log into every machine. You don't have to click on every computer name and see the details and all that. So instead, you also have an option here called inventory reports. So you click on inventory section, you click inventory reports here. So this will give you an option like disks, computer by disk usage and all that. So you can directly click on this, and this will give you the summary of the disk usage from all your managed computers. So this can also be used here. So you can use a summary view or a detailed view, and you can export that easily. Or if I wanted to check for a specific computer, you can go to the computer's view and click on a specific computer name and get the details, right? So that's how you can identify and get the details of the disk usage, right? How do I get alerts? So first, how can an administrator get an alert when a disk space is getting full? Again, in the inventory, we have configure alerts. In this configure alerts, you have this option called disk space alerts. You can enable this disk space alerts based on your requirement. So you can customize it. So this will automatically alert you when a disk space is low. And for the end user, so if you wanted to generate an alert for the end user, you can go to configurations and push a configurations to manage computers using Desktop Central Agent. I go to configurations, Windows. So here I have alerts configuration. So in this configurations, we have an option to enable the alerts when the system drive is less than 500 MB, or you can customize that. And then you can select all targets and you can deploy that. So the end users will also get alerts so that they can also be proactively monitoring, and they can do necessary actions to clean up the files. But if users fails to do that, again, as an administrator, you need to do a lot of cleanup steps and all that. But you don't have to manually do that every time. You can also use the options here in Desktop Central under Tools. You can go to the Tools section in Desktop Central. So here we have an option called System Tools. So this System Tools option will provide you various options like disk cleanup, disk defragmentations, and all that. So let me show you these options here. So System Tools, I click on Add Task. Of course, this is like a scheduled task that you need to, you need to create as a scheduled task. So here I need to select what operations that I wanted to do. So I can add all these three or just one. In this case, I wanted to just do a disk cleanup. I can select that here, and then I click next. So I can customize what are the files that I need to enable for deletion. So you can choose the temporary files, error catch files, and even you can enable the storage sense automatic deletion using this, and you can select the targets and schedule it. So based on this, the Desktop Central agent will run a regular scan and identify the junk files and delete them, right? So that's how you can proactively remove unwanted files. Right. So that's it about the use cases here. So if you have any questions on this so far, so feel free to use the chat option. Expert panel will be happy to assist with your queries. All right. So now let's have a look at the architecture of Desktop Central. So this is the architecture diagram of on-prem version of Desktop Central Server. So Desktop Central Server works in client-server application model. So Desktop Central agent has to be installed on all the machines to be managed. So these agents can connect from different locations, such as they can directly connect from internet, or they might connect from VPN or from MPLS network connections. Internet users or roaming users or mobile devices connect through the secure gateway and contact the server. And when it comes to remote locations, you might have machines, remote offices with distribution servers as well. So they can contact distribution server and also the central server to read the jobs and all that. So Desktop Central can also integrate with Active Directory to fetch AD objects for AD installations or to fetch AD reports, or even you can use this sync to target any configurations or patches, software deployments through an AD groups as well. Right? Okay, next. Even if you have a closed network architecture, so where you don't have internet access, Desktop Central can help you managing your endpoints over here. So we have a document for that. You can refer this document here, or you can let us know if you wanted to know more about it. We can help you on that. So Desktop Central is available in AWS and Azure Marketplace. In case if you're looking forward to host your Desktop Central server in Azure or AWS, you can easily do that. So we have a recommendations for this in our website as well. Even Desktop Central is available as a SaaS cloud-based product. So you can sign up for a free trial edition and you can evaluate the Desktop Central Cloud Edition. So if you like to schedule a demo for that, we can also assist you on that. All right. So we already talked about how agents talk to server, the different methods and all that. So Desktop Central is scalable to manage computers, even up to 20,000 endpoints, even up to 25, 30,000 endpoints. So this is because of this 90 minutes refresh policy. So let me explain how this 90 minutes policy works. So every agent communication with desktop central, every agent communicates to the desktop central server for every 90 minutes. Even if it is 900 missions or 90 missions or 9,000 missions for that matter. So the 90 minutes will be equally divided between the number of computers, and they will talk to the server on the specific time allocated for them. So desktop central server will allocate the exact time that they need to talk to the desktop central server. So this is mainly to avoid the network congestion and to limit the downloads that can happen, at the same time. And so this is mainly to avoid the bandwidth issues on your network as well. So this 90 minutes refresh policy is defined in such a way that will split the load evenly on your network, and that will not cause any damage on your network. Okay, so here are the ports that needs to be open for the desktop central agents to communicate and also to utilize all the features. So the HTTP port 8020 on HTTPS port 8383 is used for the desktop central agent agent communication, so through which agent will read any jobs or configurations that you assign. So notification server port 8027 is used to send any notifications from server to agent. And if you are using voice and video chat features available in desktop central, we use port 8443. And for remote control, file transfer, and for distribution servers, these are the respective ports used. All right, so now we're almost at the end of today's webinar. So far, we have discussed about the features of asset management, and we'll see how it works. So now, in this section, we will discuss on few interesting scenarios and solutions that I came across in my support experience. Scenario number one, we also use Service Desk Plus for asset management. So how do two products interact? If you're collecting inventory in Desktop Central, do we still need to scan computers in STP? So yes, so if you're using Service Desk and Desktop Central, or if you're planning to, you don't have to scan your agents again with Service Desk. So since Desktop Central already scans your computer using Desktop Central, you can just integrate your Desktop Central with Service Desk under this admin Service Desk integration settings. So if you integrate it, Desktop Central agent will act as a backend and update all the inventory data that collected and to the Service Desk Plus server automatically. So you don't have to run a scan separately on Service Desk Plus. Right, scenario number two. How can we identify the security status of the machines in my network? Again, right, so this is something that we already discussed. So here, if you look at the computer details, we already have the security details tab here, so which will give you the details of it. Or even you can go to this inventory reports. Here we have security reports that says antivirus details or BitLocker details or firewall details. So this reports will give you the summary of the firewall details, BitLocker details, and antivirus details of all the managed computers. So that way you can get the security status. Scenario number three, does prohibit software feature blocks web browser plugin as well? No, unfortunately, prohibit software will not block your web browser plugins and all that. But as part of our security, endpoint security add-ons, we have a feature called browser management. So in this browser management tool, you can manage your plugins and you can customize the restrictions on your browsers and all that. So that can be used for blocking any browser plugins. Scenario number four, shared directories with write access as a security threat. Can we identify them? Yes, you can easily identify them with the help of the inventory reports again. So if you go to the inventory reports section, so we have a lot of different reports over here. So here we have your share details. So you can open this report and that will give you the share details, what are all the shares available, and it'll also give you the permission details available for every share here. So let me show you that here. So yeah, so these are all the shares created and we'll give you the permission details. All right, next scenario. I wanted to identify the computers with local administrator accounts. Is it possible? Yes, of course, this is also is possible. So we have a predefined report for that. System group users. So we can easily go to this report and that will give you the list of users with admin privileges and in fact any privileges for them. So you can easily see the group members. So you can see the computer name and you can see this group membership. So if you wanted to filter by group, you can select the group name here in this filter as administrators and filter the computers which has admin privileges. Right. So that's scenario number 5. Right. Scenario number 6. Dropbox is installed as a user level and would like to get a list of computers that have installed. Okay. So yes, this can also be identified. So we have an option called, user-based softwares. So normally when you install applications, so some applications will install only on a user profile and some applications will install on computer profile. So we have an option here called user specific software. So using this software, you can easily identify the user based softwares installed on your computers. And you can see the list of user names in which the softwares are installed as well. Okay. Scenario number 7. I wanted to attach an invoice or other attachments to the computers to the main record. Is that possible with asset management? Yes, of course, this is possible. So you can again go to the inventory summary view of a computer and you can easily upload the files over here. Right. So in the bottom of this page, you have this option. You can update the warranty details, invoice details, and everything. So this will be helpful. Right. So next is a set of frequently asked questions. So first, can we add the date that computer has been purchased to register the warranty dates, etc.? Yes, of course. So just we saw that. So here we can manually update the details. But if the device model is Dell or Lenovo, you don't have to manually manage that. Automatically, we fetch the shipping details, expiry details, and everything. You can make use of that. All right. Question number 2. When you add a program to the prohibit software list, does it take all the versions of a software into an account? Do I need to update the prohibited software list every time a new version is released? And actually, this is a very important scenario here. So for example, we already discussed about the prohibit software. So previously, when I showed you the prohibit software list, I showed you how to classify an application as a prohibit software. So I just classified one specific version of an application as a prohibit software. But what if I have multiple versions of a specific application which I want to classify? So in such case, I have to go to an option called group software here under this section. So you go to group software. So in this group software option, you'll be allowed to create a group. So for example, let's take 7-zip. So I have different versions of 7-zip installed on my network. So I can create a common group with a common name here. And I search for 7-zip and I add all the versions of 7-zip. And even here you can say add all the following versions and you can see this as characters and click update. So if any 7-zip version is installed or updated on the machines, automatically it will be added to the 7-zip group. So now you can directly add this 7-zip group as to a prohibited software list so that you don't have to manually modify the list every time when a new version is updated or released. Okay, question number 3. In the inventory report of a computer with or without software, how to specify the filter criteria and schedule them. Okay, this is very simple. So again, if you go to the report section here, so we have an option here called computers with or without specific softwares. So this is mainly useful when you wanted to check if a computer uses a software or doesn't use a software. So this has a predefined list of filters available, which you can easily utilize and filter the report. So for example, I can use equal or any other options which is required. I can give a name and search for that details over here. So even the same report can be scheduled as well. So you can go to scheduled reports, and in the scheduled reports, you can go to add scheduled reports and the inventory reports, computer specific software. When you select this, you have a filter option here where you can specify the filters that you want to apply based on software name or any other options. With that way, you can utilize this. Right. Question number 4. In case of any issues with the driver in a machine, how can I identify the same? Of course, yes, we already have seen that we do have options to capture the driver details. So all you need to do is you need to go to scan systems and enable the driver scan. Once you enable the driver scan, the driver details will be visible here, so through which you can monitor the driver details and you can utilize it for audit. All right. So now we have come to end of today's webinar on asset management. So trust this was useful and informative. If you guys like this training, please do rate us on a scale of 1 to 5, whereas 5 means best. And if you guys like the training, please do spread a word in the social medias using this taglines mentioned over here. And please stay tuned for the next training schedule on remote control next Wednesday, July 14th. In case if you're interested in a demo on desktops and cloud, or the endpoint security features, or if you like to know more about the asset management capabilities, you can send your demo requests to the technicians on chat, or you can use this URL on screen and submit a demo request. So we'll be happy to schedule a personalized demo for you. Right. So thank you all once again for participation and patience and spending your valuable time. Have a great day ahead.